Toronto, you better close your eyes, because this is arguably the biggest middle finger that an NHL player could have given you personally. Am I exaggerating? Yes. Is it vindicated? Also, yes. Honestly, today we are talking about the Vegas Golden Knights, a team that had just advanced to the second round of the Stanley Cup Finals after defeating the Utah Mammoth in 6 games. They won a staggering 5-1 game number 6. And this is the guy who got it done the best. Mitch Marner scored twice. The Golden Knights eliminate the Mammoth, and it's going to be Vegas versus Anaheim in round number 2. If you take a look at the 3 stars of game number 6, Mitch Marner scored 2 goals, added an assist for 3 points on the game. And while it's extraordinarily normal for a guy like Mitch Marner to get multi-point games, to find himself on the score sheet more than once, the fact is, he was never really good at doing that in Toronto in these later series games. Marner, right now, has 7 points in 6 games for Vegas so far against the Utah Mammoth. And we'll see how many points he is able to get as the Knights take on the Ducks. But this post made on the R Leafs subreddit essentially summarizes the grief and potentially the regret that many Leafs fans feel. Mitch Marner scored more goals tonight than he did across games 5 to 7 combined as a Maple Leaf. Top comment goes out there and says he is now 15th in playoff point per games played amongst active players. And that's with Craig Berube for a season. Make no mistake about it, Mitch Marner has been doing things in Vegas that he was never really able to do with Toronto. Let's take a look at some of the other Game 6s and Game 7s that he was able to play with the Maple Leafs. Okay, take a look at the 24-25 year. Marner has 1 point in the remaining 4 games at the end of the Florida series. He has 2 points in the remaining 3 games against Ottawa, although that was only a 6-game series, so games 5 and 6, Marner had 1 point in that series. Go back to 2024. The Toronto Maple Leafs lose in the first round to the Boston Bruins, and Marner has 1 point in the final 3 games. 2023, Mitch Marner playing off against the Florida Panthers. They didn't even get to 6 and 7 games. Marner had 0 points in Game 5. Okay, great. Against Tampa Bay that year, Toronto made work of the Lightning and they ended up winning in 6. Marner had 0 points in Game 6, 1 point in game number 5. The pattern is quite evident over the past few years of Marner and Toronto Maple Leafs production. The guy just never really scored. He didn't do much in games 5, 6, 7 when given the chance to do so with the Maple Leafs. And in fact, you can say it was even worse in 2021, where Mitch Marner took that crazy puck over glass penalty, which gave Montreal all the momentum in, I believe it was game 6. I don't remember. It was 5 years ago. But Mitch Marner developed a reputation for himself that just showed off the worst possible results in the postseason and when the games mattered the most. It's why you had Leafs fans all over saying, "Oh, Vegas, just you wait until this guy gets into the playoffs, because that is when he is going to disappear." Heck, in 2024, he had 3 points in 7 games in that playoff run. 2021, 4 points in 7 games in that playoff run. You can see that while the production is there in certain years, the production is never there when it matters the most, which is why seeing Marner do what he's doing right now with, 5 points in games 4, 5, and 6 against Utah? This is something he would never do in Toronto. Now, there are some devil's advocate perspectives that you can take when analyzing what Marner has been able to accomplish with Vegas. This comment says, hey, Marner was able to get those points against the 15th overall team in Utah. I'm curious, did we ever get matched with a 92-point team or lower in the standings? I feel like we got matched up with a 100-plus point team every year in the Atlantic. Meanwhile, you have two 106-point teams, and Tampa and Montreal facing each other. The Atlantic is stacked. They then took a look. Montreal in 21 was definitely the lowest. Otherwise, the lowest were 2017 Boston with 95 points and 2025 Ottawa with 97. The Leafs never truly got a matchup like Vegas did with Utah. So the argument is Marner with Toronto was never facing a team as bad, quote unquote, as Marner with Vegas was facing off against in Utah, which I don't necessarily know if that's the right way to look at it, because hockey is a team sport. And okay, you can let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I think it's a fair thing to bring up. It's just I'm not really one to beg to differ based off of the quality of the opponents. Bottom line is Mitch Marner just wasn't really producing even when the Maple Leafs were winning series throughout the years. True, we never really had the path that Vegas has lined up. That's just the reality of Atlantic Division hockey over the years. There's a few vets on Anaheim who could give Marner and Vegas a hard time, but as long as their goaltending is okay, they really should be able to get past the Ducks, who are relatively inexperienced, just like Utah. I don't think they get past Colorado or Minnesota unless those teams manage to mutually destroy themselves in 7 games. Another reply says there's a big difference between Utah and the Demons that we would play in the Atlantic year in and year out due to the format. Another reply says it is what it is, but he'd never do it for us. He would never get the time and space for us that he got out there versus Utah. On his second goal of the game, he was literally in the bumper position, but he was always posted up high or along the boards for the Maple Leafs. And that point shot in the second goal, wish we had someone who could get that point shot on goal. But you just know, if it was Riley taking the shot, he'd wire it into someone's shin, and it would end up in the corner or something. So, better teams produce better results? At the end of the day, you can say this also is an indictment against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mitch Marner was a franchise player drafted a decade ago who had spent so many years with his hometown Toronto Maple Leafs teams, and while it's true, he and Matthews were the two guys that did not show up in the playoffs when the going got tough. This is a guy that wanted out of his hometown squad because of the media pressure, because of the way fans treated him, because of his reputation, and I'm not sitting here saying that Marner is a saint. Oh no, far from it. This is a guy who was represented by some of maybe the worst publicly facing representation for an NHL player we've seen ever, really, especially in this era. He was toxic in the way he would respond to comments in the media, the way he would interview. You could tell this guy never really got formal media training. He would say the wrong thing every single time, which made it worse. And then on the ice, he would stop producing. I'm not saying that this is a guy who wasn't worth the fuss that he got in Toronto. He's a talented player who was able to do some really great work in the regular season. But the Maple Leafs, they're not a great team. At least with Marner and Matthews, they never really put together the right formula to win hockey games. Yes, they might have gotten caught by the flat cap for a few years, which really thwarted Kyle Dubas's plan. But at the same time, Mitch Marner, surrounded by a better team in Vegas, debatably, even though he went out there and produced fewer points in the regular season, he's now producing where it matters, which is something that I think a lot of Maple Leafs fans questioned if he ever had the capability of doing so in the first place. With that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Mitch Marner and the way he was able to produce more in Game 6 yesterday versus Utah than he had in all of his Games 5 to 7 combined as a Maple Leaf? I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.